Food. What does it mean to you? No matter what your answer is, one thing's for sure. We all love food. Not only is food essential to our survival, it is also a big part of our culture. But as much as we love food, we tend to throw away food that is perfectly edible. So today, we'll share some simple tips and hacks for you to adopt. One of the many places I love to hit up for groceries is our local wet markets, where you can get assortments of dry, wet, and fresh ingredients. Buying from the wet markets not only supports local businesses, it's also one of the places where you can find package-free produce, allowing you to avoid unnecessary packaging. I usually bring my own bags and containers to avoid packaging whenever I can. Specifically, for wet markets, it can get really crowded. A simple tip is to bring plastic bags or Ziploc bags because they are less bulky, making it easier to weigh your produce and dump it into your bag. This is also a great way to reuse your reusable bags. Another way your containers can come in handy is when you are eating out but can't finish your meal. Instead of throwing it away, you can pack your leftover foods into our container and bring it home. Okay, so you must be wondering, what can you do with the leftover food that you've taken back? In this episode, I'm going to show you how you can create 2 different dishes out of the same ingredients with one shopping list, and yes, leftover ingredients included. Before I get started, here are some tips. Store leftovers properly, preferably in an airtight container, and make sure you consume or repurpose it by the next day. And yes, anything and everything can be repurposed and given new life, including leftover food and ugly ingredients. And if it can't be eaten, it goes to my compost bin and the cycle continues. Today, from the leftover biryani, curry, as well as other simple ingredients, we are going to make curry baked rice as well as a burrito bowl. First, we're gonna roast some vegetables for our burrito bowl. Start by chopping up your vegetables. If you don't need the whole vegetable, you can save the rest for another meal, such as what I am doing with the purple cabbage. As for the cauliflower, you can see that it has some black spots, and most people would usually consider this ugly and throw it away. The fact is, most often it can still be eaten. Use your senses as a guide to whether or not it's still edible. Once you have prepared your vegetables, we are going to transform some stale bread into delicious croutons to add some crunch to both our dishes. Now, the thing about today's session is to keep everything simple. So, for both the vegetables and the bread, I'm just going to drizzle them with olive oil, salt, and pepper, give it a good mix, and pop it in the oven. So while everything else is in the oven baking, we're going to heat up the curry and then we're going to add the rice. Always remember to taste your food before you add salt. The curry itself has flavor, so I am just going to leave it as it is. If you want it to be slightly thicker, you can add coconut milk, coconut cream, totally up to you. Once you see it bubbling, you can then add the rice, give it a good stir, and then add a handful of spinach. Then you can transfer the mixture into a pot that is safe to put in the oven. And saving the best for last, top the rice with your favorite cheese. I'm using plant-based cheese, but you can use any cheese you like. And this goes into the oven at about 180 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes or even longer. Next, we will start building our burrito bowl. Now that the vegetables and croutons are nicely baked, I am going to start cooking the meat. You can choose anything you want. I am using plant-based meat. There are a few ways that you can actually work with the meat of your choice. You can marinate it half an hour or a few hours in advance or even overnight. If you don't have the time, you can do it now. So what I do is I mix all the herbs and spices in here, and I'm just going to give it a good mix before I stir fry it. Add some olive oil once the pan is hot. Cook it until it is nice and brown. Remember, you don't want it to be overcooked because then it'll be too dry. I am going to use the remaining leftover rice that I have to make my burrito bowl. Spread it out evenly to create a base, then add your roasted vegetables, your meat, your herbs, whatever you want to be on top of it. And voila! The baked rice is now ready. Remove from the oven. We have whipped up 2 dishes, which are the burrito bowl and the baked curry rice, all made using leftover or takeaway food that couldn't be finished. They are completely new meals that otherwise would have been thrown away. It really doesn't take so much time and it's super easy. All you need to do is chuck it in the oven and then voila. And finally, these are the food scraps that I didn't use or cook with. Instead of throwing them away, it goes into my composting bin, which eventually turns into black gold, also known as compost. I use it to enrich my soil and it provides nutrients for my plants. It is a natural cycle and nothing ever goes to waste for me.
So this is what I do with leftover ingredients, leftover food scraps, and I want to kind of like challenge you to come up with creative ways that you can do with food that will be otherwise been thrown in the bin. So yeah, so I hope this inspired you to kind of like create your own little change.